Well, hello there. So my last video is this thing I said?
The reason I love the Wizarding World and J.K. Rowling so much isn't just because of the magic and the spells, but because she has this undeniable ability to develop amazing three-dimensional characters. It came to my attention that there is one particular character that a lot of people tend to forget about simply because they love him so much they forget that he has flaws in the first place. And that is the very protagonist himself, Harry Potter.
My dad didn't strut, and nor do I.
Are you sure about that?
Common amongst protagonists, as the audience will tend to view the protagonist as a blank slate, someone they can view this magical fantasy world through. I like to use this video as a way of seeing Harry Potter not so much the protagonist of a film series or book series, but what if we ourselves were students at Hogwarts and attended classes with Harry Potter and knew him as a real person? Now, it might just be me, but I wouldn't have been friends with Harry Potter. Because believe it or not, once upon a time, I was a kid in school, and I was not very popular. I had blue hair, I played Dungeons and Dragons, I wrote Harry Potter fan fiction, and I got bullied a lot. Did not have a lot of friends growing up, and it was... I'm making a YouTube channel about Harry Potter. How do you think I was as a kid? When I look at a character like Harry Potter, right, let's just throw the whole nerd glasses trope out the window, because that's just not apparent here. When I look at a character like Harry Potter, I see a popular school jock. Harry Potter is the seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. He brings home all of the Quidditch cups, all of the house cups, and eventually becomes captain of his own Quidditch team. He is the equivalent of a small town high school quarterback. And this is certainly not me saying that jocks are somehow bad people. I'm just saying that Harry Potter wouldn't have been exactly the kind of person I would associate with in school. And the kinds of people that I hung out with in school were into things like anime and magic and were mostly goths. If I were a student at Hogwarts, I would more likely be friends with someone like Neville Longbottom or Luna Lovegood or even maybe the oddball Slytherin. I mean, there is just no possible way that the Slytherin common room was in a literal dungeon and not at least one kid brought Dungeons and Dragons. That's all I'm saying. That being said, I want to go into full detail of why Harry Potter is a flawed character. I need my wand. Go. Number 1, his legacy. Harry Potter is the boy who lived. He is the one who stopped Lord Moldywort when he was just a babe, and they won't let you forget about it.
He pointed at Harry's forehead. Harry pulled back his bangs to show the lightning scar. Ron stared. So, that's where you know who? Yes, said Harry, but I can't remember it. Nothing? Said Ron eagerly. Well, I remember a lot of green light, but nothing else.
He was a baby! Doesn't even remember what he did! In the first chapter of the first book, we already know Harry Potter is famous. Vernon Dursley can't even go to work without overhearing strangers talking on street corners about Harry Potter. People are having feasts in his honor the day after his parents are dead. Couldn't even mourn James and Lily Potter for 2 seconds. No, they had to have a feast right after they died. And the only reason Harry Potter did survive Lord Voldemort is because his mother, Lily Potter, loved him so much she sacrificed herself, and the love from her sacrifice protected him.
That kind of act leaves a mark. No. This kind of mark cannot be seen. It lives in your very skin.
What is it?
Love, Harry. Love.
Harry Potter isn't stronger than Voldemort, isn't more special than Voldemort. There's his mum's statue in the town square. She doesn't get one. Now there tends to be the theme with Harry Potter throughout the entire series. His legacy is Harry Potter, the boy who lived. But his legacy is false, because the only reason Harry Potter did live throughout the entire series is because of those who were around him to make sure he wasn't killed. And not just Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, mind you. I mean nearly every single character that J.K. Rowling had made up in her brilliant head. If it wasn't for those to make sure Harry Potter didn't go off running into walls, Harry Potter would have died before the second book. And the times that Harry Potter did decide to do something by himself, he nearly did die. It was a huge mess and someone else had to clean it up. Number 2, he's very irresponsible. Think that someone who is a clear target for dark magic and knows that he's a clear target for dark magic would be more responsible with not getting himself more involved with dark magic. I mean, Harry Potter has to get involved in absolutely everything chaotic. From going into the Dark Forest, to taking on trolls, from waltzing into the Chamber of Secret, and going back to why I personally wouldn't have been friends with Harry Potter, is that he just sounds very dangerous. I mean, Harry Potter clearly has a death wish. Okay, Ron, time to go into the Forbidden Forest for the umpteenth time. Let me use you as bait. I think Hermione Granger, being as smart as she is, would just be like, you know what, Harry? I have potions to study for. Figure this out on your own, because I don't want to deal with this. I mean, with everything that Harry Potter seems to get himself into, it's actually a wonder at how he passed any of his classes, because you almost never see him studying, or doing homework, or doing anything to do with his academic. Preparing yourself to take down one of the most powerful dark wizards of all time, and yet the only spell that you know at the end of the books is Expelliarmus. And can we just talk about the amount of things that Harry Potter should have been expelled for? And the favoritism from his professors and headmaster alone not expelling him is doing no good for his ego. If anyone from Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw, and especially Slytherin, had done any of the things that Harry Potter had done, they'd be on the train home like that. Expelled. Dunzo. I can make a whole list, actually, of all the things that he's done that should have got him expelled. I did make a list. 1. Going to the Forbidden Forest a countless number of times. 2. Driving a flying car and being seen by muggles every time he used the invisibility cloak. 4. Opening the Chamber of Secrets. As if your fellow students weren't in enough danger, Harry. Okay. 5. Attacking a potions teacher. 6. Brewing polyjuice potion. 7. Drugging his classmates, stuffing them in a broom closet, stealing their clothes, and impersonating them. Which, by the way, what did that accomplish exactly? Are they okay? We never actually find out what happened to Grab or Goyle. Did Filch have to escort them in their underwear back to the Slytherin common rooms? Some weird frat boy initiation? We're just going to ignore the fact that they hazed fellow students? 8. Flying an unauthorized broomstick, which of course he was then rewarded for with his own broomstick and the position of Seeker on his Quidditch team. But no, Gryffindor favoritism doesn't exist at all, you guys. Doesn't exist in Hogwarts. 9, starting Dumbledore's army, which, to be fair, is understandable. 10, leaving a ministry official in the Dark Forest alone, which, to be fair, is also understandable and quite hilarious. Using Sectum Sempra on a student in a duel. Mind you, had no idea what Sectum Sempra even did, just found it in a book one day, lying about, thought he'd use it for a jolly good old time. What did you think it was gonna do, Harry? Dangle him by the seat of his pants? Or you would love to do, considering what you did to Crabbe and Goyle. 12, destroying bathroom during said duel. 13, locking Hermione Granger in the bathroom with a troll. 14, cheating during the Triwizard Tournament. The rules clearly stated, Harry, that you are not supposed to receive help from anyone. Not professors, not fellow students, and who did Harry receive help from? Everyone. Going back to my first statement, how Harry Potter can't get through anything unless someone else does the work for him. 15, multiple violations of underage magic, like blowing up his aunt, which, to be fair, also very funny. Every time he visited Hagrid after hours, just, how is that appropriate? Secretly harboring and transporting an illegal baby dragon for Hagrid. Sneaking into Hogsmeade without permission slip. Waltzing around the forbidden 3rd floor corridor. Freeing condemned criminals, which, to be fair, in Sirius Black's case, that probably is the Ministry of Magic's fault for not giving Sirius Black a fair trial, and their justice system needs some serious work, but yeah, when you're at school, you probably shouldn't go chasing after condemned criminals. Just a thought. And look, I'm not saying that I myself haven't broken the rules at least once or twice, or at least a few dozen times. I'm a Slytherin, what do you expect? What I am saying, though, is that it's kind of bogus, because if this were anyone else getting caught, they'd be expelled. One classmate, right, growing up, that was an obvious teacher's pet, never got in trouble, got straight A's when they didn't deserve it. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. That's Harry Potter, and he's annoying for it.
Both realize, of course, that in the past few hours, you have broken perhaps a dozen school rules.
Yes, sir.
And there is sufficient evidence to have you both expelled.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, it is only fitting that you both receive special awards for services to the school.
What? What the f?
Yes, well done, Slytherin, however.
Harry Potter's arrogance and lack of responsibility, he also has really poor character judgment, which brings us on to number 3. And Harry Potter makes his judgments for people really, really quick, which is very apparent throughout the entire series. And there is no greater example of this than Slytherin House. Strode Millicent then became a Slytherin. Perhaps it was in Harry's imagination, after all he'd heard about Slytherin, but he thought they looked like an unpleasant lot. When I read this as a kid, I obviously thought, well, of course the Slytherins are the bad guys. There are about 600 kids at Hogwarts, give or take, and you divide that by 4 houses, you're going to get about 150 kids per house. There is no possible way that Harry Potter's interaction with 6 or 7 Slytherins during his time at Hogwarts is going to compare to every single kid in that house. There are still about 143 people that Harry Potter has not met from Slytherin House. Now, I know the whole series sort of plays out Slytherin bad and Slytherins are evil, but as a Slytherin myself, and someone who was sort of prejudged in school, I like to think that there were a few nerdy Dungeons & Dragons Slytherins who just were kind of pushed off to the side and, you know, not acknowledged. Okay? First things Harry Potter does learn about Slytherin are from meeting Draco Malfoy and Madame Malkins for the first time and hearing that he wants to go into Slytherin, and from Hagrid, who says that Slytherin was the house for you-know-who, the man who killed Harry Potter's parents. So of course, Harry Potter, who dislikes Malfoy and obviously dislikes the man who killed his parents, is not gonna like Slytherin very much. I bet I'm in Hufflepuff, said Harry gloomily. Better Hufflepuff than Slytherin, said Hagrid darkly. There's not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. You-know-who was one. Sorry, you-know-who was at Hogwarts? Years and years ago, said Hagrid. The first description of Slytherin that Harry Potter gets is not a single witch or wizard who went bad who wasn't in Slytherin. Which isn't even true, mind you. I mean, Gilderoy Lockhart was in Ravenclaw. Peter Pettigrew was in Gryffindor. Well, that's not biased at all. Harry is very quick to judge Slytherin House in the same way that he's very quick to judge Hagrid. I mean, Hagrid essentially is the guy who comes into Harry's life and says, hey kid, you know that horrible life with your horrible aunt and uncle who want to send you off to that horrible school? Well, don't worry, because you're a wizard and there's magic and stuff, and you're going to run off and go to Hogwarts with me. Hagrid is essentially the only adult in Harry Potter's entire life who has showed him any sort of kindness and hope. Of course, not only does Hagrid's opinion matter greatly, but anyone who dares criticize Hagrid is therefore his enemy. I say, look at that man. I don't know why I'm doing a Stewie impression for Draco, said the boy suddenly, nodding toward the front window. Hagrid was standing there, grinning at Harry and pointing to 2 large ice creams to show he couldn't come in. That's Hagrid, said Harry, pleased to know something the boy didn't. He works at Hogwarts. Oh, said the boy, I've heard of him. He's sort of some servant, isn't he? He's the gamekeeper, said Harry. He was liking the boy less and less every second. Yes, exactly. I heard he's some sort of savage, lives in a hut on the school grounds, and every now and then he gets drunk, tries to do magic, and ends up setting fire to his bed. I think he's brilliant, said Harry, coldly. Do you? Said the boy with a slight sneer. Why is he with you? Where are your parents? They're dead, said Harry. I should laugh at me. Of course, Malfoy insults Hagrid, and Harry doesn't like this and decides that Malfoy is a rotten, spoiled brat he wants nothing to do with. And while Malfoy is in fact a rotten, spoiled brat, he isn't necessarily wrong about the things that he says about Hagrid, because let's be honest, some of the choices Hagrid has made are not exactly the best. Bringing in dangerous creatures like blast-ended scoots into classes and adopting baby dragons when he lives in a wooden house. Hagrid isn't exactly the brightest. The very fact that Hagrid had to leave Harry by himself at Madame Malkin so he can go get himself a drink at the pub, and the bartender at the Leaky Cauldron knew Hagrid as a regular, chances are Hagrid may have a drinking problem.
All Professor Quirrell had to do to get any sort of information on Fluffy was to find Hagrid at a pub, disguise himself under a cloak, and offer Hagrid a few drinks. Who put Hagrid in charge? Who gave him this much responsibility?
Do you think it wise to trust Hagrid with something as important as this?
Ah, Professor, I would trust Hagrid with my life.
With Harry Potter's first encounter with Draco Malfoy, his trust in Hagrid, and his relationship with the man who made him an orphan, his opinions on Slytherin House are less rational and more emotional. Of course, throughout the entire series, Harry Potter is extremely emotional. As J.K. Rowling even said herself, Harry Potter has a tendency to overreact and get very hot-headed. Harry Potter has a very fragile ego. For someone who judges people so harshly, he gets really upset when other people judge him. For example, during the Triwizard Tournament, Harry Potter gets really upset that people think he put his own name in the Goblet of Fire.
He's a cheat! You're not even 17 yet!
Your main trait every single school year is to sort of put yourself in a death trap. People are going to think you're asking for attention. And then despite telling people that he doesn't want eternal glory and that he doesn't care about winning the Triwizard Tournament, he does absolutely nothing to try and get out of it.
He has to do it. It's the rules.
Since when do rules matter in Harry Potter? Clearly. The entire time Harry Potter was cheating by getting help from other people. If he had just come forward and said, hey guys, I'm cheating, people are helping me, they would have completely thrown him out. During the third task, he could have sent up red sparks in the maze and forfeited and not have touched the port key and have gone to bring Voldemort. Seriously, if Harry Potter had just forfeited the maze the moment he walked in, Voldemort would have never come back. Can't tell me that the Seeker of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, who brings home the House Cup and Quidditch Cup every single year, doesn't like the attention and isn't competitive. You just can't tell me these things. End of the Triwizard Tournament, Harry Potter is upset because no one believes him that Voldemort is back and that Voldemort is the one who killed Cedric Diggory. We as the audience, we know what happened. We understand that Voldemort is back and that Voldemort is the one that killed Cedric Diggory. We got to witness all of that. But they didn't. Imagine yourself as a student at Hogwarts, okay? You're watching the Triwizard Tournament, and the last pair of people come through the maze, and the band is playing, and the next thing you see is Cedric Diggory's dead body on the grass with Harry Potter on top of it. Why is the band still playing? You're kind of just sitting there wondering, like, how are you supposed to take this all in? What's going on? Like, this is the kid everyone was already suspicious about putting his own name in the Goblet of Fire. On top of that, the person who was his biggest rival in the Triwizard Tournament and dating his love interest is now dead. And there were no other witnesses other than him. It's a little suspicious. Again, we as audience members, we know what's really happened. But if you're a student at Hogwarts and you're witnessing all this, I wouldn't believe him. And going back to his judgments on Slytherin House, you would think after the Chamber of Secrets, Harry would lighten up a little bit on Slytherin House. As someone who is so judgmental of Slytherin House, you'd think he would understand why people are making quick assumptions about him being a Parselmouth. He's mad at everyone for making the same judgments about Slytherin House that he makes, or he would reflect on everything that he went through and decide, maybe we're too judgmental of Slytherin. But he never does that. He just continues with the same cycle of blaming Slytherin for everything.
I was just wondering if you put me in the right house.
Yes, you were particularly difficult to place. But I stand by what I said last year. You would have done well in Slytherin.
Entire goodwill is not based on what is right or wrong, but simply vengeance. The entire story of heroism is based on revenge. Revenge against Voldemort, who made him an orphan, the reason he had to live with the Dursleys for killing his parents. Vengeance isn't exactly a bad thing. It's actually done quite a lot in things like Star Wars, V for Vendetta, several Greek mythologies, and Shakespeare. I'm only pointing this out because Harry Potter is often referred to as a pure good, which is not the case at all, because while Harry Potter fighting Voldemort is moral, the reason he is doing it is out of revenge. Actually, a part in Order of the Phoenix where Dolores Umbridge says to McGonagall that Harry Potter wouldn't make a very good aura because he doesn't like to follow the rules and he's nitpicky and arrogant. But the funny thing is, an aura is a cop in the wizarding world. It almost feels like Harry Potter has the perfect personality for that. Also, Harry Potter is very critical of the injustices in the Ministry of Magic, but then he wants to join the Ministry of Magic, and when he does, nothing is changed. Well, Voldemort's gone. All is well. Was it though? Was it really, Harry? If he becomes an aura and gets involved in the Ministry of Magic, he would fight to actually change the wrongdoings in the Ministry of Magic, but he doesn't. He only changes the issues that affect him in the end. And then throughout the Chamber of Secrets, he talks about how wrong it is that Dobby is mistreated in slavery. And then at the end of the Deathly Hallows, all he can think about is if Creature will make him a sandwich. So really, this category should be changed to Harry Potter's morals make no sense. Number 5, not the brightest. There is a reason Harry Potter was not sorted into Ravenclaw. There's a reason. Back to his legacy of screaming in a diaper and having no idea what was going on, that's pretty much the case this entire series. All of Harry Potter's antics, he seems to go in blindly and is only ever successful with the help of the knowledge and skill of everyone else. And when he doesn't rely on his friends helping him or accidentally giving him vital information that he needs, he tends to make a mess of things. Philosopher's Stone would have never happened if Hagrid just kept his mouth shut.
I shouldn't have said that.
I look back at Harry Potter's academic career and wonder how he passed any of his exams. The only reason why Harry Potter was in advanced potions was because his professor, Horace Slughorn, was obsessed with celebrity status. He didn't earn his way in. He didn't get the right scores to get into that class. The only reason why Harry Potter was in that class was because Slughorn was like, oh my gosh, Harry Potter, you are famous. Hi. Very inappropriate. The only reason he's able to do well in that class is because he forgot his own textbook and he found another left over full of notes by Professor Snape. He doesn't even recognize the handwriting of his own professor that he's had for the past 6 years. I mean, honestly, Harry, just look at one of your old assignments. It's not that hard. Then again, Harry Potter would be the type to not keep his old notes, would he? Pulls out his wand in front of Muggles, reads the Daily Prophet in front of Muggles. It's like no wonder Draco Malfoy is sick of Harry Potter. Draco Malfoy is a slimy git, but in some cases he has a point. I mean, Harry Potter never gets in trouble. He gets away with everything. There's absolute favoritism. Like, great, you're famous for not dying in a diaper. Good for you. Where's my Nimbus 2000? The very fact this boy breaks every single rule is kind of a jerk. He still earns points for it. Harry Potter could commit murder, and Slytherin would still be blamed for it. Would murder a Slytherin, and then their ghost would serve detention. Potter is obviously a very loyal friend, a very good friend. Throughout the entire series, we see him show this fact. Harry Potter's entire character represents friendship and loyalty and love, but he's still very annoying. Anyway, please comment down below your Hogwarts house, and if you were in Harry Potter's year, taking classes of Harry Potter, if you were to be friends with Harry Potter. If no, why? And if yes, why are you a social climber? Just kidding. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Ashton Slytherin, and I'll catch you next time. Boop!